So today we have Jeff Jacob. But the first event was with two trans women. Second was with Jen C. Jacob of Boom and Kanishka Raj of Reuters International. Third was with the founder of Suicide Prevention International and two other. The fourth session was with Rajashri, and all of them are artists from different parts of the globe. We had Kannan Gopinathan, the retired, in fact, he quit the civil service, and the editor of the news, Vinit Dhanya Rajendran, the dean of, he's also a political analyst from University of Hyderabad, had joined, T. Shri Kumar. Ranjini Jose was part of one of our discussion. Then we had the owner of, in fact, Dr. Anup sir. And we had someone from World Economic Forum and Oxford University. K. Sachidanandan sir was a speaker on politics and poetry. We had Rajiv Gada sir, the chairman of the Congress Party Research Committee. Mrs. International Isha Farha was the speaker for yet another event. Professor M.N. Karasheri sir, this was the only event done in Malayalam. So, Vinod Manjula sir of the Double Horse Force, and Professor Ranjit Ramchandran, who works a night watchman, currently a professor at IIM, and Sagrika Ghosh, the celebrated journalist, Kaji Varghese sir, who invented straw from coconut tree leaf. We had Pradeep Vyas, founder of Fresh Zone, and the last event was with Christo George sir of the Hyphen. Today we have Jeff Jacob joining us to talk about. And one more event which is scheduled is with Anand Raj, founder of Eat Raja, and Bindu Jaram, the founder of IPACA. So that's in a nutshell what we have done so far. We hope, as always, the discussions becomes more engaging, more fruitful with your involvement and participation. So looking forward to your support. And it's a reminder again that you follow all the etiquettes or inetiquettes of a discussion. Request all those who have joined, except those in the panel, to mute your microphone and also switch off your camera so that unwanted chaos or confusion can be avoided. Sometimes, so as to avoid the symphony and cacophony of ringtones or other conversations, parallel conversations, it's better that we follow certain protocols, certain etiquettes of a group discussion. So it's time for us. Shall we begin? We can wait for other people. It's our tradition to begin the discussion on time. Shall we begin? Shapu sir? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can begin. I think it is exactly in time. We can begin in another 1 minute. No problem.
Okay.
Okay.
So Jeff, sir, I'm assigning the presentation rights to you. You'll be the host now. You can also start sharing the screen, and I'll, okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I hope you've got the presentation rights. Not yet?
No, not currently. Yeah. Okay. So you need to stop sharing, I guess.
One.
Share screen.
Okay.
The host is disabled. Participant from sharing screen.
Still, Rishikesh is the host, right?
Host. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just transfer it right
now.
Yes, I've done that.
Video.
Could you please try? Yes.
Now he is the host. He can.
All right. All right.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. You proceed. I'll be there.
Okay.
The
Request
protocol
all.
can be started, right? Rishikesh, sir, you take care.
All right.
Rishikesh, you're on mute.
Hello.
Yeah, now you're audible.
Okay. Thank you. Request all the participants to ensure that your microphone is switched off, and also please switch off your camera. This is the second reminder. So good evening to you all, and welcome on behalf of the National Institute of Technology, the School of Management Studies at National Institute of Technology, Calicut, and an independent discussion forum called Let's Chat, which is a collective of like-minded people from people all across the globe. And we have entrepreneurs, we have researchers, we have academicians, and people from different spheres of life. So therefore, it's a mixed bag. And we've been organizing events post-pandemic, became a little more active, and this is the 21st event that we are hosting. To begin with, it's always important to listen to multiple perspectives to know the truth. Because we need to be always beware of the half-truth, because we don't know whether we have gotten hold of the wrong half. Because there are always two sides to every story, or multiple shades to every story. And I think if you're an independent thinker, we need to ensure that we listen to both sides and seek out the truth, because you might become part of the deceitful circus and end up being a fool. In other words, every story has two sides or several sides and shades. We need to hear both before we try to judge someone, especially when they are people whom we care about. And above all, a lot of problems, it's not just individual, or it's not just institutional, it's not just organization or country. A lot of problems would dissolve if we talk to each other instead of talking at or talking about each other. For all the wrong or right reasons, KITX is currently the talk of the town, but the truth always lies between their version and our version that we have mobilized through the multiple sources or the news outlets that we have been exposed to. And of course, every news outlet, whether it be print, audio, video, online, every news outlet would have their own versions of the story. So from what I have understood from the little readings and the little research, KITX is a group founded in the 1960s, and is the second largest producer of children's apparel in the world. And that too, in a very small state like Kerala, it's not a small thing. Apart from the garments, the company also manufactures aluminum products, curry powders, and school bags. And it's the largest private sector employer in Kerala, in Kerala's industrial scene. And Jeff, sir, you can correct me if my statistics is wrong. I understand that you also provide employment for roughly about 10,000 plus people. And its operations currently, as is also known for various other reasons too, is in a village called Kirakambalam on the outskirts of Cochin. KITX today has been into a lot of evolution or revolution, which makes them the talk of the town. So let us first listen to the origin of KITX and how or where they are heading towards, or the entire evolution from where they have started and where they are currently and where they are heading forward. So that's the initial part of our discussion. As always, we'll first listen to the speaker for roughly about 20 to 25 minutes, and then the floor would be open for all the participants who've joined us this evening. Over to you, Jeff, sir. You can start your presentation or lecture or whatever you wish to do. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Rishikesh, sir. Please, presentation, share the screen. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Jacob. I'm the director of Scooby Day Garments India Limited, which is a listed company and a part of Anarchitects Group. So I'll just take you through our journey and our total story starting from 1968. The company was started by my grandfather. Next. So this is our founder, my grandfather, Mr. N.C. Jacob. He was our pioneer in, say, our industry, and he started off with aluminum vessels. He found out that our story starts a little earlier when Sir C.P. Ramasamy was ruling Kerala, or Tiruvidampur, what it was known. It's just British times. So when he found out that Kerala had a vast resource of water which was available, and he constructed dams for production of electricity. And the problem was electricity wasn't available, was not consumed at that rate during that time. So he went to Alcan, Canada, to bring in Alcan Group to India and set up a factory in Kerala, which is the Indian Aluminium Factory, which is set up in Alua currently. So this is how they came in, and they started commercial production of aluminium in India, which was, and the reason they came was the cheap electricity which was available during that time, created by Sir C.P. Ramasamy. So my grandfather during these times was looking for new opportunities, and he found out that Indian Aluminium Company is a good source of aluminium, and we could take aluminium from them and manufacture our own products in Kizhakkambalam and distribute it throughout Kerala. That time, the Kerala market was totally flooded by say aluminium vessels from Tamil Nadu and other parts of the country. So he found out there was an opportunity, and he went around and found aluminium vessels which were needed, which old aluminium vessels, and he melted them down and used them. Also, he took aluminium from Indian Aluminium Company and started making aluminium vessels. But he faced a lot of harsh times. The initial one or 2 years was a big struggle, and stocks were piling up. It was not very successful in the beginning. Then suddenly there was a power shortage in Tamil Nadu, which led to all the aluminium companies being shut down and or going out of business. And the price of aluminium, which was 2 rupees at that time, shot up to 24 rupees. And thus started our growth. And we started out like that. We then ventured into textiles, Sara, curry powders, which I'll go into detail later. So he was our founder. He's the visionary of all our projects that we are doing. The quality standards, the policies we follow, most of them are set by him. And he is our true inspiration for all of us working here. This is my father. He is Mr. Bobby M. Jacob. He is managing director of Anarchitects Group, and he is taking care of all the local businesses and some such as Anna Aluminium, Scooby Day, Jackson, Saras, and all other brands. And he is our current leader, and he is taking care of all the groups and including exports to Europe and Asia. Next. This is the face you might be all familiar with. This is Sabu Jacob, my uncle. He's the younger brother. He started his journey with Kitex when Kitex started. Right from the construction stage, he was involved with Kitex, and he started his own manufacturing of garments and garment exports. Then he later in '99 ventured into big infant wear, which we are second largest in the world currently. So yeah, that's about it. Next. So this is the journey of our group. So we started with Anna Aluminium in 1968. We started selling aluminum vessels all through Kerala, which was a very profitable business after what I say the initial problems which we had, and then it turned into a profit and it was running smoothly. Then we ventured into Sara Spices and Kitex. The reason Sara's we started exporting black pepper, which was a big thing for USSR at that time. So they consumed a lot of black pepper, and then we were exporting black pepper at the time. So my grandfather thought, why it would be a good idea to go and venture into powdering curry powders and masalas. Then he started powdering masalas and curry powders from 1979. So thus Sara's came to the brand as a brand. Anna Aluminium, okay, the naming schemes of each brand has a specific reason. So Anna Aluminium, Anna is my great grandmother and grandfather's mother. Her name was chosen for the first company. Second, Sara's is grandfather's mother's sister. He used to love his mother's sister a lot, and she used to take care of all the time. So in her memory, he kept a brand, Sara Spices. And Kitex is basically Kizhakkambalam Textiles. Just a tribute to the village of Kizhakkambalam where we are from. So we named a brand as Kizhakkambalam Textiles. Jackson is grandfather's father. So we just named it after him in his memory. And if you're familiar with the brand, it's basically manufacturing non-stick steel and non-stick pressure cookers, those kind of things. So in order, after Sara's, we started Kitex because there was a government scheme actually promoting power looms in Kerala to take power looms. So we started off with that, and with that scheme, we set up a power loom, and that's how we started Kitex Lungis. And now we are into multiple categories of lungis, dhotis, bed sheets, and garments for exports. In 1993, we wanted diversification from our traditional vessels. So we created a brand, Jackson, for manufacturing of cookware, pressure cookers, and other things into the market, which was a huge success during that time. The market was dominated by Prestige and Hawkins during the time. But because of our relationship with the dealers and the trust of the customers, we were able to bring the brand to greater heights. Then my uncle then started a separate unit, Kitex Garments Limited, for garment manufacturing, which had a huge scope. He understood the scope by going to world fairs and trades, where he's understood the scope of garment exports and the future of garment exports. And being uniquely positioned in India, the largest producer of cotton, he saw a huge potential in garment exports, and he completely focused his efforts into garment exports. And he went for an initial public offering in 1995. By 1999, he got his first $2,000 order from Gerber, which we from which with whom we are still doing business. It's been 21 years, 22 years. So it's a very good relationship, and it's still going on. And Scooby Day bags is part of Kitex. It was a extension from the traditional lungis. So we wanted to get out of not get out of. We want to expand the brand from lungis. So my father thought of the idea that during these times the aluminium bags, aluminium suitcases were used to take books from school. If you remember, aluminium bags were used, and these during 99 or 98, I don't remember the year correctly, they banned aluminium suitcases completely. So Scooby Day was an extension. So we lost a lot of sale in Anna Aluminium because of the ban of aluminium suitcase bags for schools. So we turned that into an opportunity in Scooby Day and started Scooby Day bags. After that, we ventured into different businesses. After that, we went into 2007, we went into manufacturing of innerwears, which is still going on. Then 2017, we started another addition to the aluminium division, which is roofing. So we have, which is Annalium, which is a new brand, and we started selling roofing sheets in the brand name Annalium. And after that, we went for an acquisition of Victory Paper and Boards India Limited in 2018. Currently, it is renamed as Scooby Day Garments India Limited for we are currently manufacturing baby garments for the European market. Our customers are Marks & Spencer, Kmart, Australia, and H&M and C&A are our other few customers. Next. So these are the brands. So, I just talked about Anna Aluminium. Then there's Kitex, which has a US export division and a European export division. Sabu takes care of the US market alone because it's such a huge market for baby wear. He takes care of US completely and US buyers. And Bobby, my father, takes care of all the European buyers such as H&M, M&S, Marks & Spencer, and C&A, Carrefour, etc. Then there is Scooby Day. Scooby Day is
Hello, Rishi, I joined you.
Scooby Day is a brand of school bags, which is the market leader currently because of the lockdown, it has not been very active for the past 2 years. But still, it's a brand close to our heart. Then we have Saras, which started in 1976, and for the domestic production of FMCG sector, masalas, ready-to-eat products, ready-to-cook products, rice powders, rice, all kind of. It's basically leading in food products for the whole. Then there is Victory, which is the new division currently named as Scooby Day Garments India Limited, which is into garment exports. Next, I would like to talk about our corporate social responsibility, which is 2020 Kirkam. We started this. So 2011 was when our founder, Mr. MC Jacob, passed away, and we, both of us and my father and my father's brother, Bobby and Sabu, they had an idea of starting an Ayurvedic hospital, but they didn't have the expertise that Mr. Jacob had in bringing up an Ayurvedic hospital. So they wanted to do something in his memory. So they set out a team of MSW people, and they conducted a survey about the whole village. And the results that came out of the MSW survey were shocking. People in our village, say Kedakambalam, they didn't have proper bathrooms. Some were staying in sheds made out of half broken material, recycled material. So the condition was very bad, and we wanted to change that. That survey really opened our eyes. We were that time second largest apparel manufacturer, and we wanted to go ahead. And we were looking at the place where we started, and it was not up to the standards of the products we were selling. Our grandfather's vision was, as the company grows, the place you stay should grow. The economy should improve, the people around you should improve, and the standard of living should improve. That's the real improvement. Not only the company growing, not the profitability growing, the whole ecosystem, the place you're staying in, everything has to improve. For that, he had done what he could during that time, and he made sure that everything possible was done during his time. So in 2013, we formalized that we will make Kedakambalam the best panchayat in the whole of India by 2020. And that's why the name 2020 Kedakambalam. And we started out doing our activities. So we started out with many things such as water for everybody. So we made bore wells and connected water to every homes in the in Lakshmi colonies of Kerala. Then we tried many things, and we were having roadblocks at every juncture. We had roadblocks at construction of water, construction of houses had a problem. Anything we wanted to do, the people and the politicians were against us, and they wanted to throw away. So we had a food market during Onam where everything was half price. During that time, they said this is illegal, you can't have it, and this is happening at a problematic area, and they created a problem, and they made us the section 144 was imposed in Kedakambalam during that time. And at that juncture, we decided that we want this to change, and we decided that we would go into the panchayat elections and take over the panchayat and make it the best possible way, which was our initial goal. So we went and set out, and we did our we contested in the elections, and we won 17 out of 19 seats, which was a huge achievement. And we took over the panchayat. We started developing and doing developmental activities. I like to show you what we have done. Next. So agriculture, we bought tractors and everything that is needed for agriculture, and we also provided the people. They only need to give us the land. We would grow crops, grow crops, take care of them, harvest them, and give it back to them. We wanted to bring back farming into our village, which was absent for a long period of time. So we started that. We constructed toilets of all the houses which didn't have toilets. We gave electricity to every house which needed electricity. There was food distribution. There was school bag distribution. Anything that possibly they could want, we would give them. This is this was actually a Laksham Veedu colony, which was constructed during the 1976 Indira Gandhi scheme, which gave houses to everyone. So it was just a single wall. There was a single wall in the middle of this, and people were staying under tarpaulin sheets, and it was a very bad condition. We completely took the whole place down. We got everybody there, and we totally rebuilt the system into what you see today. These are individual villas to individual landowners, people who were staying there, and each person was given a villa. So this is the whole project. Then we also had the food security market. This was actually taken from a thing we with grandfather did. Grandfather during 80s wanted Mr. MC Jacob. There was a whole huge famine during that time, so he got rice and tapioca from Andhra at that time and bought it at a bulk from Andhra and brought it here to Kerala and distributed it at a cheap price, like 2 rupees during that time. So this gave us the inspiration and the idea of buying in bulk and distributing it amongst people for a very low cost. And this is a supermarket which anybody in the panchayat can access at half price. So this is our 2020 food security market. Next. We also give free medicines, regular checkups, surgeries, medical camps. We do this on a regular basis. This is also taken from inspiration from grandfather. He used to give money to nuns who are running hospitals. So he would instruct the nuns that people who don't have money to run, run for treatment, running the hospital, or you could come to Anna Aluminum Company and clear the bill. So the nuns were doing this frequently and running a good system during grandfather's time. We upgraded it to a more formal setting where we partner with the hospital and they provide all these services to all the people in our panchayat. Next. So one of the major things in our panchayat which we were doing is construction of roads, and all roads in our panchayat have been widened. The land the land of the people have been taken, and we give an offer that we'll construct your walls, boundary walls, and you will get free food till 2021 from the food security market. So many people willingly gave us their land, and some people, 80% of the people willingly gave their land for us, and 20% are still a bit hesitant, but we nevertheless completed the roads and tarred all the roads in our panchayat. Next. Then there was drinking water projects. We regenerated the water bodies by cleaning the whole water body with our with JCBs, and we constructed walls on the sides. This was especially helpful during the rainy seasons where water was clogging and causing floods, and during the rainy seasons, this kind of development was very much helpful for us. And we gave self-employment. We gave goats and other animals for people who are staying at home. Goats with their homes built and sent to their homes for self-employment. All kind of facilities for them, for making them come up in life. So that was our goal, and we hope we have achieved what we have set in 2030, in 2020. Next. That's about it. So that's a whole nutshell of our group. We wanted, thank you very much for listening to me.
That was so very interesting to listen to your entire journey from where we began. And now I'll just quickly raise some very fundamental thoughts, just as a layman. Some quick thoughts which I had. After a certain point, you said we did this. We developed the community by doing involving in probably in farming, in road construction. Now, when we say we did this, was that the company, the group of companies, or was that the 2020? The association or the collective of people. Because somewhere I was losing a clarity on that.
Okay, sorry about that.
No,
2020 was formed like as an NGO for the welfare of the panchayat. Then a separate 2020 party was created to contest in the elections. The NGO was involving in all developmental activities, and the part with the support when we won the panchayat elections, we got the support, and in a public-private partnership, we constructed the roads, and we had cleaning of these trenches and all these agricultural projects which we did. All developmental projects were on a PPP model, where the company was funding some of the projects and the government was also funding through the panchayat. So wherever there was a deficiency of funds, we would pitch it.
All right. Just some discussion points on a statement which Jacob sir had once made. Now, without directly naming anyone in the state government or anybody, sir had made a point, or rather an observation, that, or it sounded as if a charge that this state, Kerala, lacked a conducive climate for business to grow. I'm just rephrasing, but these are the lines on which sir had spoken. So he claimed, while he did not want to abandon the proposed investments in Kerala, he was being forced to do it as a result of some sort of political and bureaucratic harassment or witch hunting, or whatever words we get to hear as a layman. So what are those? Probably you can opt not to answer, but we would like to listen to you. What are those specific, non-conducive environment for a business to prosper in a small state like Kerala? Just bullet points would be enough, but if you wish to take it as a, extend it further with some stating few instances, we would love to listen to that too.
So in the month of June, we had 12 raids from different departments in our factory.
Okay.
Yeah. So when that happened, each day we would have some other department coming in and having a raid. We couldn't stop them. They'll come in, they'll ask questions to our employees, they'll go out. This kind of environment started, and it was getting into since we were politically, we had a political party, and everything was running smoothly. And we wanted to keep the political party separate and the factory separate. So that was our aim, but the two got mixed. That's my feeling. And we had 12 raids, and it was the raids were going on day by day. It was stopping the business flow. And the main thing is the top people who want to, change the system are not enabled to change the system because the bottom level is not good at implementation. That is my feeling. The bottom level keep on working on one way, the top level go another way. So there's no cohesion between the two levels. That's my feeling on this. So that makes it very hard for a person for running a business. So we have units in Tamil Nadu and say other parts of the other parts. We have an office in US also. But whenever we have faced these kind of issues in Tamil Nadu or these kind of raids, they coming in every 12 times a month is too much.
It is.
Any given day or point. So we wanted to invest more in Kerala because it was our home stage. We had a MOU signed with the government of 3,500 crores.
Right.
And we plan to move it out of Kerala totally currently. That's our plan currently.
Right. So, and sir, you also mentioned that the 2020 was floated with the aim of making Kirakambalam Panchayat the best in the country by 2020, and that therefore we have named the party also 2020. And if I understand correctly, in 2015 local body polls, the output won all except one ward in the local body elections.
Two wards. In 2015, two wards.
Two wards. But you could retain the power in the Kirakambalam Panchayat. So, what is the basis on which you connect with the localites? I mean, is it in terms of employment, or is it in terms of the CSR efforts that you put, or is it in terms of some other things that you're offering for the localites, which makes them stay loyal to you? I mean, just your perspective on it.
So it's basically a sum total of everything. That would be my feeling. So our CSR funds and our own funds were used to for everything from toilet construction, house construction, for the medicines, any problem they had, it was our problem. For every ward, we had 19 wards, we had one MSW person just to take care of any problems that they had. So they would come in and have a report a problem. We would say health or housing or any other problems they had, we would get involved with that and make it our own problem and solve it. If money could solve the issue, we would provide the necessary financial support for house construction or bathroom construction, basic things. These were the basic things which the people of our panchayat, Kirakambalam Panchayat, which the company Kitex is named after, didn't have. So that was embarrassing for us. So we wanted to change that and we did that.
Yeah, I think, in fact, in a small state like Kerala, a public-private partnership model is something which needs to happen more, especially during the pandemic. In my place in Calicut, I have seen PK Group, PK Steel Group. They had, I think, 5 lakh of 20 lakh worth of a gas plant was gifted to the local medical college in Kerala. So my point is, there are lots which public-private partnership models can do, but what again? Is it because you also run a political, party, or are there other factors? Or probably let me put it in a different manner. When you talk about witch hunt and harassment, is it from the government or is it from the government officials? Because these are two different things. Or is it a combination of both? Or is it the government officials for the government? How is it? What is your feeling? What is your take on it?
It's a mixed bag. So so government officials would be there. They would be conducting the raids. We don't know. What we see is the government officials coming in and doing these raids based on complaints. It's based on complaints they have received, but they wouldn't tell us when they come in. They would just barge in and start questioning workers. This kind of environment was not helpful for our business to sustain. So we decided to move out. And this public-private partnership and doing things for the people, I feel there are three things. You need to have the money to do these things. You need to have the willingness to spend the money that you have for the improvement of people. And number three, we need to give the time and the effort, which is the most important thing for any businessman for successfully implementing it.
Right. And prior to all that, I think you need to gain the trust of people, because I think businessmen are always looked at, or rather, let's look at your venture as an entrepreneurial venture. Entrepreneurs are mostly looked at with a suspicion that their intentions are only profit making. But then when you have such a business model which is involving people, or co-creating things with the support of public and private, I think these are models which has to happen more. I mean, that's just my private, my personal observation. Now, another question, slightly deviating from the discussions that we've so far. Now, when you select your employees, what is the criteria that you keep? Is it purely merit, or do you give, the localites, are they preferred the most, or on what basis do you select employees? Because you employ around 10,000 plus people in different, I mean, that's what I understood. So on what basis would you select your employees?
We would have a proper interview with them. So, and we would basically check if they were fit for the job. That is the basic requirement. If they are willing to do the work, they are committed towards the work, are they really wanting the work, or are they here because somebody pushed them for work? These kind of things would be the main thing. Merit is not an absolute necessity. If you see one of our top management people, they are not scholars who have degrees and stuff. We have people like that in certain positions with degrees and other things, but we have a top management with no merit. Basically, they have come up from, say, they have worked in the stitching lines. They have come up. We have employees. One of our production managers who started work with garment units, she started from 300 rupees.
Okay.
And her salary currently is 1.5 lakhs. She's just past 12th.
Great.
So there's no, it's based on merit, based on how much hard work you are willing to put in towards, and how much committed you are towards us, and how much you could improve us as a whole.
All right. I think we can also now invite the participants to ask questions. Either you can share your questions in the chat window, or you can unmute and ask. But just give a hint in the chat window so that we can avoid unwanted chaos and confusion. Before that, let me just ask just one last question. What are the kind of quality criteria that you have ensured? Because to stay or remain as second largest kids apparel manufacturer, I think a lot of quality check, quality assurance has to happen. So what are those things that you do to ensure both people quality as also professional quality in your workspace, and also probably your manufacturing quality? I mean, that's my last question from my side. Probably we can listen to more from the participants.
So quality is a continuous process. There's never, you can't never have a perfect product. That's my belief. So you have to continuously work on making the quality better. How can I you should never sit on your laurels and work and say, this is my best product that I can give. We need to constantly work on making it better, small changes. So basis of quality is two things. One is the machineries we use and the people we have. So machinery we use, we have imported machines from different parts of the world. The best technology we have adopted just for the best quality. So one of the dyeing processes we use is the first in Asia. The dyeing plant which is set up in Kochi was one of the first in Asia. So the machineries we use and the man who are trained to work on these machines are all taught about the quality, and they keep on improving the quality and helping us reach a level where it's sustainable. So both things, man and machine, improves our quality and keeps our quality at the highest level.
All right. Over to the participants. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask your question. We also have a co-host, co-presenter. Can we have the questions from your end?
Yes, sir.
Yes, over to you, Aditi.
Okay. So participants, if you have any questions, you can come up and ask.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Anmol.
Sir, I just want to ask that when we start a company or any firm for business, what are the main challenges before us to start a company, and how we can overcome this? As you have told today that we have started from early of the company and at you are in the peak. So I just want to know what are the main challenges and things that we should keep in mind when we start a firm or company.
Hi Amol, thank you for your question. So for starting a company, my main thing would be what competitive edge do you have over anybody who's in the field, or something, is it something new that nobody has done before, which you want to do? So if you see this, if you have a clear plan on, if you have a competitive edge or something unique, any company is workable. That's my belief. So if you check all our new companies, say we had Anna Aluminium, we went into Jackson because we knew that we had a competitive edge in the dealers and the people would accept a pressure cooker from our side, or a non-stick vessel from our side, or a steel cooker, because we have the brand name of Anna Aluminium. So if you have a small competitive edge, you should use that competitive edge and start a new. So you should always look for a business where you have a core thing which is better. Something, if you could do it better than anybody else, you should definitely start a business. That's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anmol.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Anmol, you should have also asked, mentioned where you are starting the venture, because the dynamics in Kerala would be entirely different from dynamics in Telangana, or dynamics of Telangana would be entirely different from that of Gujarat, or that from Kolkata. So probably locational advantages there, merits and demerits are there too.
Absolutely.
So we have a question in chat. So it's like, was there any difficulty while relocating to Telangana?
Okay. So the Telangana story is basically we cancelled 3,500 crore investment. So they sent us a private flight, a state flight, just to get our team there because of COVID. And they had everything set up. They had an iPass system where you just go in and start your business, and all the legal documents they'll take care. It's a very new kind of system, something we have never seen. So they actually take the initiative to complete all your paperwork, get everything through. So it's never a challenge. We never till now it's been very supportive from the Telangana government, and they have given us all support for the investments in terms of subsidies. They have totally taken us and swept us and given us everything we want. So there's no challenge as of now. It's actually a pleasure doing business in Telangana.
So I guess the Telangana project is also 1,000 crore. Is that again an apparel park? And if I'm not wrong, it's set up in Warangal.
So there are two projects. One is set up in Warangal, where it's a apparel park, right from spinning, everything will be there. Cotton spinning to everything will be there. So Warangal, one factory is coming, and Sitarampur, there's another factory coming
in. So we have one more question in the chat. So it's like, what motivated you to come up with 2020 in Kirakambalam?
So the main thing with 2020 Kirakambalam is grandfather's dream. Mr. MC Jacob wanted our panchayat, our place to grow as our companies grow. So when he was there, he did it what he could. Like I told you, he rationed rice and tapioca during the famine. He used to provide free medical services to people who went into hospitals. He used to help anyone and everyone who came into our homes. So it was an extension of basically of that, and the MSW survey which we did in our panchayat was a real eye opener. So we went into each home, we took out a few questions and asked them what is the real situation. The data which we found from the survey was truly shocking. So that prompted us to take the steps and start 2020 curriculum of the vision of completing all these problems which were pointed out in the survey by 2020.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So you are mute.
Sir, Rishikesh, sir, you are on mute.
Okay, sorry. No, I was just trying to compare the Tata Group of companies and how they've developed Jamshedpur, because in Jamshedpur, we've got a lot of students and they come and say, sir, in Jamshedpur, there is a local saying that Juta hai to Bata ka, Naukri hai to Tata ka. I mean, that's the kind of, it's there in their DNA. It's because the Tata as a group have done a lot to the community. Actually, the Kitex is a Tata for Kerala, but then I mean, the story is entirely different. So probably, what is it that you wish to change in Kerala? I mean, you can look at it from multiple perspectives. Probably the change that you expect from the people of Kerala, the change that you expect from the trade unions, the change that you expect from the regulatory bodies, from the government, from multiple perspectives. If you could just give us some hints, some of your views, some of your expectations. So, if at all you have such a hope. Thank you.
We are entrepreneurs. We are always hopeful, Rishikesh. We are always wanting the best for everyone. So one of the basic things. Okay, I'll give you one example. So there's a rule which is still valid in Kerala that money paid in salary has to be given in cash to the employer. This rule was made in 1964 because people working in farms were paid in crops. So that law still exists in Kerala. There's a central government rule which says money has to be deposited in their bank accounts as of 2013. So the basic things is the rules and laws need to be updated according to times. That is the basic thing which governs all of us. So we want to follow these rules, but they are so outdated that we want to, we have no option other than to go to courts and get the orders done. So we are constantly on the process of going. We had this in our inspection report that we are not paying money in cash. So we went to the court asking for this decision to be reversed. So it's a continuous process. We want to be in Kerala, but these kind of roadblocks in basic rules itself are the main thing that concerns us.
Yes. So since you've brought in the aspect of going to court, one of the recent developments which I read through the media is you were the ones who had given a petition to reduce the vaccination gap. I mean, can you just what made you do that? Because no other corporate, nobody else have spoken about such a an initiative. So what made you do that, and what was your intentions behind such a move? Yeah.
So we wanted to get our factories vaccinated as soon as possible because of the pandemic. We were not letting in anybody from outside coming in. We had very strict rules of quarantining and getting into hostels. So these were creating, problem. Everybody wants to go home and come back, and these kind of things should be there. But we wanted to get them vaccinated as soon as possible. So we bought the vaccines directly from Covishield vaccines, and we got the first 2 doses in the first shot itself, and we wanted to get them vaccinated as soon as possible. But as the first dose was done, we got into a problem of 84 days gap has to be there. There was a mandatory rule which was not present because there's another rule which says that travelers traveling abroad can have vaccines before 84 days, which is not fair. So we had to go back to courts, and we wanted to get vaccinated as soon as possible. So we got a favorable decision, and by the time we got the favorable decision, the 84 days were over, and we got the second dose done. But still, we wanted things to happen in the right pace. Everybody has to have equal laws. And we were not taking the vaccine free from the government. We were getting it with our own money from the company, which were providing vaccines approved by the government. So we went there because of that.
Yes, sir. There's a question in the chat window.
Sure.
Aditi, you can.
Yeah. The question is from Nitin. It's like, was the environmental friendly strategies making a difference in revenue generation?
Environmental friendly strategies, as in terms of pollution or the business environment? I'm not clear about that.
I think it will be like regarding the pollution.
Okay. So for pollution, we have taken a stance that anything that goes out of the factory has to be according to the rule of the land. And for that, we have invested extra money. So our processing is all organic processing. All the dyes we use are organic. And these are our goods, basically, which we manufacture for the US market, are Z category, which is the highest category, because the babies are wearing it and they are constantly eating their dresses and chewing their dresses. So the dyes should not come out. Even if they come out by any reason, it should not harm the baby. So the rules and regulations of the US are followed by our factories. So we have invested heavily in pollution, kind of controlling pollution, and our ETP and STP are directly from Switzerland. We have appointed people from Switzerland to construct our ETP and STP in our processing factory, so that no harm and the purest of the purest water is given to the panchayat and let into the environment. The main thing is that we are also staying very close by to the factory, and we don't want to harm ourselves. So if we harm ourselves, it's just stupid to pollute the environment. And it is important to protect the environment and invest in eco-friendly systems.
I'm just adding on to a question which I might have asked earlier. So you spoke about the criteria of employee selection, but can we also listen to your demographic profile of the employees? Is it majority? Because in most of the companies in Kerala, as what I've read and understood, is are people from Bengal or people from Orissa, from wherever cheap labor is available. So what's the kind of roughest demographics of how many Keralites? Or you don't look at the region or religion or whatever other criteria, it's only based on their ability and their loyalty. Is that what your criteria is? Or
absolutely. Yeah. We don't look at where region, religion, these kind of things don't matter to us. Yeah. The thing that matters to us is are they ready to work for us? Are they committed? Will they give the best product, the best quality? So basis of quality is two things: machinery and people. So are they aligned to our values, which help us grow in exponentially, which will help us take us to the next level? So that's the basic thing. And in terms of demographic, probably 10 to 20% are from Kerala, and rest from all other parts of the country.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So we have an entrepreneur from Vietnam, Vimal. Vimal, would you like to unmute and ask the question? Thank you for joining.
Yeah. Hi, Rishi, and hi, Jeff. Good to see you all. Just a quick question. So how are you competitive? Like when you have got countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Indonesia, who is also in the same sector, and they do have an advantage on the labor cost. So how are you being competitive, in terms of pricing and getting the business?
Getting the business. So two things. One is timely delivery and quality. These two things are essential in the garment exports business. So we pride ourselves on timely delivery and quality. And in terms of competitiveness, if we give better quality, the price they're willing to sacrifice. Better quality and timely delivery leads to getting better rates for our products. So these two things are essential. So even during the pandemic, when most of the factories were shut, we were still working through it. We were manufacturing PPE kits. We never missed orders. We never got orders cancelled. We met all our deliveries. Many of the suppliers couldn't meet up with the demands of the customer. So basic thing is timely delivery in the export business. So we could deliver on time, and that made a huge impact. We were booked, our factories are booked till December, January, fully booked, and it's a very good condition for us.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have yet another entrepreneur, Radhish Kurup. He also was into apparel business. Would you like to ask some question, Radhish?
Hey, Rishi, thanks for the opportunity. Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Yeah, so I largely deal with the Shahi exports over here in Bangalore. I'm based out of Bangalore, and we have their strategy are something similar to yours, but still the profit numbers and the profitability part here and is much higher with respect to Shahi, and they have a more number of factories across on the northern part. So being in Kerala and getting these numbers up, what is the mantra for it? Because I am also investing something in Kerala and I'm finding it very tough to get it through it.
So basically two things, operational, so the people and the machinery, these two things are the core element of operational cost, bringing down the cost and getting people working towards it. So these two things, if these two things are working in perfect tandem, we could have, so recruitment is very key in this matter. So that's why we have a better profitability. We have recruited the right people for the job. We train them rigorously, and that makes the profitability much, much higher. These two things are key to the success and the quality we have. So basically, that's the whole story about Kitex.
Thank you very much.
Just adding on a question more. Today we talk a lot about industrialization. I mean, a fourth phase of industrialization. I'm talking about artificial intelligence, humanoids, drones, and so many other things which comes along with it. Now, don't you think this the fourth phase of industrialization is likely to change the manufacturing process itself, where you don't need much of human intervention? I mean, I'm just worried, since you are employing 10,000 people, but then on the other side, there is also mass mechanization and technology coming into the production and manufacturing process. What is your take on it, and what is the future of your sector that you envisage?
We also envision a future with technology going hand in hand. We also employ our dyes, which are used for coloring, are taken by robots, not by hand. So we also have employed robotic technology and those kind of industry 4.0 technologies, which you were talking about. So people will be necessary even after all the automations come in. That's my feeling. This is similar to the fear that we had when computers were coming in. Kerala had a huge problem. Computer is our enemy. Computer is the enemy of Kerala state. There was a huge hue and cry about this. So I don't feel that the people won't be unemployed, but they would be upgraded to use these technologies and to make better products. That's my feeling.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great point. It won't replace people, but it would ensure and enhance the quality of manufacturing is what your take is. Great observation. Are there more questions from the participants? Because we had committed 1 hour, we have exceeded that. That's why I'm just kind of alerting.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So my name is Shreya, a second-year MBA student from NIT Calicut. I understand for a state like Kerala, which lacks in-ground employment opportunities, Kitex was a firm that could employ many numbers since ages. So I assume that majority of your employees were Keralites when the manufacturing unit was in Kerala. Now, due to these external factors, since you have shifted to Telangana, like how are you taking care of these employee concerns, or are they really migrating to Telangana, or like how you handle this employee unit now?
So for Telangana, the situation is that the government itself is hiring the people for us.
Okay.
They are actually in the forefront of hiring people and helping us get the people into our factories. They will be taking care of hostel and accommodation for the people. That is the promise they have given us. So they have started their recruitments and everything. So all the manpower in Kerala will be retained in Kerala, and additional factories, additional facilities would be provided in Telangana.
So manpower retained in Kerala means, is there still manufacturing happening in Kerala? So
yeah, we haven't moved our factories completely to Telangana. The factories which in Kerala are still running, still producing the goods for the international market. Our expansion plans for the future, that has been shifted, but we have currently not decided on whether to move our current plans from Kerala or not.
I'm expressing sincere apologies because there are 2 parallel sessions happening along with this, and both are hosted by similar groups, and that's the reason. And all are prominent speakers. So I mean, we lost a lot of audience because of that. Sincere apologies. But I'll certainly assure that we'll do it at a larger and a bigger platform. I personally invite you to Christ University, where we can offer you around 4,000 plus students, and we want you to address them as well. So are there more questions from NIT students, the participants, the people who have registered? Or else it's good to call it a day. We can go with some concluding observations, final remarks about what is it that you envision, not just for Kitex, but also for Kerala, from today is 26th of September 2021. What is it that you've got to offer for Kerala is also for your company? I mean, that's my last question.
We are hopeful. Absolutely, we are hopeful. We are hopeful for the state of Kerala. Everything we have made, a large proportion has come from Kerala. We want to be in Kerala, and we were willing to invest in Kerala of such a high amount of, we had bought land and everything. And we want to be in Kerala. We are very hopeful that everything will come because certainly the pandemic, right from say 2018, floods, pandemic, those kind of issues are here in Kerala. But we are still hopeful that people will live through this and come up on the other side successfully. We have gone through worse periods if you take history, but I'm very hopeful that the COVID pandemic and the vaccination drives which are happening currently would help us come out of this economic slump and rise like we did during the first wave. So I'm very hopeful for Kerala and hopeful for Kitex. Very optimistic about Kitex because of the huge investments we have made. And our customers are very happy, and they're all very excited about the big projects coming in. So it's exciting times. So really excited to work with the Telangana government on bringing more employment to Telangana. And we are wondering, we are very hopeful for the time after the pandemic would be such an economic slump won't happen in the future, and the people would have much more happier times than the past 2 years we had.
A great thought. I mean, I read somewhere that the corona or the COVID pandemic has not actually exposed the system, it has not broken the system, but it has actually exposed a broken system. Eventually, all of us individually, or probably from your side as an entrepreneur representing an organization, we all have realized who matters and what matters, because a lot of personal relationships have faded over these years, and those organizations which didn't have a sustainable business model, business objective, and then long-term futuristic business proposals have all faded. But today, I think Kitex would have also been experiencing such a phase where you have realized who matters and what matters. So thank you very much for the time, the wealth of ideas that you've shared with all of us. It was a pleasure listening to you. We'll certainly host a bigger and a larger event with a larger number of audience. And on behalf of the School of Commerce, representing the Christ University, and my personal behalf, the Let's Start Discussion Forum, we also have NIT Calicut School of Management Studies. I thank you and hand it over to the final proceedings to the co-host. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much, Rishikesh.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I think if there are no more points to discuss, let me present the conclusion of our discussion. So it was a very informative session on the topic Kitex the Untold. So we have Mr. Jeff Jacob as our chief guest, and we had a very informative session. So it included points like the journey of the Kitex group and all the corporate social responsibility activities that the Kitex group has been doing over the years. So has also mentioned about the competitive edge that each business needs to improve, and about the experiences of relocating to a different state due to some issues, and how the company has improved over the years. So I think if there are no more suggestions or doubts from the participants, I'll propose the vote of thanks for the event.
Kindly proceed.
Okay, thank you. So first and foremost, it's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks for such an event. And I would like to thank our distinguished guest, Mr. Jeff Jacob, Director of Kitex Group, for taking your time from your busy schedule and being part of our event and sharing us your insights about the Kitex Group. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for coming here and being part of this event. Next, I would like to...
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sir, that's right. Next, I would like to thank Dr. Rishikesh, Assistant Professor of Christ University, for taking your time in being part of this event. And thank you for moderating this event. And you have done a good job, sir. I would also like to extend my thanks to Dr. Muhammad Shafi, Head of the Department, School of Management Studies, NIT Calicut, for being a constant support throughout this event. And also, last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants who have taken part in this event and make it a huge success. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Sir, Kerala doesn't want to miss you as much as you also aspire not to miss out the huge potential and the opportunities which has made what you are. Just wishing you good luck and would be happy to see more of your ventures, not just in the rest of India, but also in Kerala. Thank you once again. We have yet another session coming in November first week. We'll be updating that to all the participants. Thank you, sir, from everyone who have gathered us this evening. Thank you. We'll end up with it. Thank you.